Do you feel how calm it is that I don't have to talk about Geelong? Do you feel how calm it is that the Hawks had a win? Let's stay in this space, in this zone for just a little bit, shall we? So it was a 50-point win against the Eagles at Marvel Stadium, and let's be honest, after this review finishes, I don't think any Hawthorn fan is going to want to talk about this game ever again. The first quarter was just such a waste, just in front of goal, ball movement, it was just, yuck. The first quarters from the Hawks now are actually becoming a problem. Yes, the Giants had the wind, but Port Adelaide got off to a really good start. The Cats punished us, and even though we led at quarter time, it was still not great, so that's definitely going to need to be addressed. The Hawks kicked, I think, from memory, 8 goals, 12 from set shots in this game and had 4 not make the distance. So that's going to be a point of focus in training, I think, this week. That's what we need to do. Sports science, don't tell us how many set shots they need to do. Double it and add 20. Because let's get these boys kicking straight, shall we? But we're in an optimistic mood. The Hawks are back on the winners list. They're in the top 4. There might still be a bit of a gap between the 3 teams that are above us. But overall, the Hawks are going well. And that's what we want to see heading into round 8 against the Tigers. And hopefully, if we can quell their speed on the ball, the Hawks will be 6-2 and sitting in a really nice spot. And Daz's overreaction to the Geelong game can just whittle on by, let's say. But overall, this is going to be a game where we should probably celebrate the individuals more than we should celebrate a particular game style or something like that, because let's be honest, the individuals deserve talking about more than the sum of their parts, to be completely honest, because the sum of their parts were we were 8.5 goals better than the bottom place team in the competition. Our inaccurate goal kicking, even though we kicked 17-15, it probably should have been, if we're being honest, 22-10, around that mark you would expect. So that's kind of the sum of the parts conversation, and you kind of get into the individualistic part of the conversation now. And the first bloke that I want to shout out here is Jack Ginnivan, because he got dropped. He is the ultimate personality. He is the guy that fans love to hate, not necessarily ours, but opposition fans. He had 23, kicked 4, and then you still had Hawthorn fans that go, oh, but he did it in junk time. Yeah, he laid 7 tackles in this game. The 2 goals won is still great, don't get me wrong, and deserve to be celebrated, but 7 tackles is the overwhelmingly impressive stat bit here. Yes, bottom team in the comp is easier to tackle for sure, but it is also the worst team in the comp, so he could have taken it easy. He didn't do that. He clearly responded from the correct decision to drop him. Massive tick for Jack in that case. I just felt like the Wizard could have had a bigger day than he had, which would have been great to see, but Dylan Moore got back into some good form. Connor McDonald got back into some really good form. He had 11 score involvements from 16 disposals. Did Croc, my God! And speaking of guys who needed to find some form, Massimo's first quarter was a little bit indicative of what the Hawks were going through as a whole. He was a little bit wasteful, kicking the grass a little bit, but overall worked into the game nicely. I expect he'll almost be better for the run in a form kind of way. And his ball use, especially without the unfortunate concussions to Jack Scrimshaw and Carl Amon, his field kicking against the Tigers is going to be key, because the Tigers pressure, they absolutely want to take territory off you. The Hawks are going to have to slice their way through with overlap run, which he provides, and great field kicking, which he provides. He and Josh Weddle are going to have to be the catalysts of that, and Bailey McDonald, who's probably going to hold his spot. He did some nice things, did Bailey. He wasn't on the eye test an overwhelmingly net positive presence, but he also didn't do a lot of things wrong. So if he is, as I said before about other players, better for the run, more than happy to see him keep his spot for sure. And of course, the last one, how did the captain go? I think he had 22 disposals for the afternoon, Sis, and that surprises me a little bit. Again, the eye test probably didn't read like his stats do. I don't think, again, he didn't do anything spectacular. He didn't do anything overwhelmingly awful from a consistent point of view. Again, he had a couple of kicks that were off. It was either shins or a meter over their head, which is a shame. And I think better sides would have punished that. So fingers crossed it's actually out of his system now. Fingers crossed, we'll have to wait and see, but I've got confidence that he will return to his best very shortly, which we love in a massive way. And as I said before, with Croc, 2-3, 11 score involvements, he is back in form in a big way. Dylan Moore did some really nice things, ended up getting me a ton in Supercoach Draft, which helped get me over the top in my game. So shout out to you, Dilsey. You're a star. I knew I loved you. But his ability to get up the ground and impact the contest and burn them the other way, that's more his forte. So that's what we want to see from the great man. Josh Battle down back. He was our best defender by a mile. Carl Amon's first 3 quarters were exemplary. And to be honest, if he didn't get concussed, would have probably ended up in the MVP votes. Josh Battle will end up there. He was outstanding. 29 disposals, which led the way for the Hawks. The man who replaced Connor Nash, the pencil, Henry Huswaite, I thought he was really good, 24 touches. Yes, he didn't have an overwhelming amount of score involvements, didn't have a whole lot of marks or tackles, which is what Connor does, as we know, but he's lighter frame, a lighter body, he is cleaner, to be honest, and yes, he did have some rust in adjusting to the speed of the game, but he worked into it really nicely, and he has got 3 more weeks now to kick Connor Nash out of that midfield, and when you see what a guy like Ned Long is doing for Collingwood, can Henry do that for us? I think he can, and I think he can do it better, and that's no disrespect to Ned, who is absolutely tearing it up as the Timu Tom Mitchell for the Pies at the moment. That's kind of what we want Henry to do, but be cleaner by hand and foot. Can he do it? Absolutely he can, and I love what he did. Now, in terms of guys that I've criticised that we've got to give credit for, no one more so than Mabior Chol, whose defensive work was outstanding. His aerial impact was exemplary. His goal kicking on a couple of occasions, but 3 goals too, took the piss. Mabior, yes, massive tick for Mabs. I really need to know if it's a fitness thing with Cam McKenzie because he's not spending enough time actually on the ground, and it's starting to do my head in, so I'd love some clarity on that. If I could ask Sam Mitchell a question in the presser, it would be that, because come on, Sam, I need to know. And the other person, Josh Ward, I think a lot of Hawthorn fans are going to get into the comments and say that they loved his game. I actually don't feel anything about the performance, to be honest. He had some A-grade moments. He had some D-grade moments. He had some outright failure moments. He had a kick on the 45 in the last quarter that just made you go, where has that been? And that's kind of where I get a little bit frustrated with Josh, because you can actually see the A-grade parts of what he can be. And then there are just times when he goes, I could do that, or I couldn't. And it's kind of like, well, which is it then? Can you make your mind up, Joshua? Please, sir. But overall, he was fine. I loved his application. If I do want to give him a massive bit of credit here, is that the way he ran out the game. So in terms of the last 10 minutes, the game was done. Dylan Moore had a spectacular smother. Jack Ginnivan had a couple of defensive moments. So did Josh. So a massive tick there for Wardy in that regard. Absolutely. Finn McGuinness had 38 or 36 against Port Melbourne. CJ had 26 touches there. So keeping those guys out of the side, he's got to be doing a lot right for the coaches. I will trust them on what they do with Wardy. Absolutely. I do wonder if we bring CJ back in and what we do with Bailey McDonald, because CJ back to half back to replace Scrimshaw makes a little bit of sense. You'd also think we'd bring in Cole Shadir. So does that mean Dimmer plays back for the entire time? Lord, I hope so, because up forward is starting to make me pull my hair out. So CJ back, Dimmer back, Scrimshaw, Amon come out, Bailey McDonald holds his spot as the sub, Bruce doesn't come back, and we roll from there. Kalsha kicked a goal from 11 disposals in the VFL, which is awesome. Jasper Scaife putting his hand up with half a dozen schnaggers for Box Hill, which is awesome. Still a bit of criticism about Jasper coming out about his defensive work when the ball hits the ground. Mabs kind of makes up for that, to be honest. Unfortunately, will he and Kalsha, if they work together, be able to do that if Mabs was the second ruck? That's going to be hard to say, but overall, no real complaints there. But if we are being honest, as we get to the MVP votes here, there is only one man that can be deemed best on ground, and it's Lloyd Meek. It's Lloyd. So yes, Mabs gets 4, Gunners 3, Josh Battle 2, and Connor McDonald beats out Henry Huswaite and a couple of others just because of the score involvement impact. 2 goals 3. Look, if it would have been unanimous that if it was 3 goals 2 instead of 3 goals 3, 2 goals 3, I should say, he'd be in there. I'm not going to punish him too much for one of the set shots. You can if you want to. I'm not going to. Ginnivan, probably unlucky to be in there. Dylan Moore, pretty unlucky to be in there. I understand all that, but I am going to give it to Croc on this occasion, the Doveton Flyer, which is perfectly fine. But they're Lloyd's stats. There is nothing you can say that is going to convince me that he ain't BOG. I also don't think a lot of Hawthorn fans are going to disagree with it. And in fact, he is so far ahead of the MVP now, it makes no sense for me to keep doing this, but I started it, so I will finish it. It's almost as if the rest of the podium is going to become a bigger watch, to be honest. But what did you guys think? Comment below, let me know. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy cohort. Over 5,300 at the moment, which is just a bonkers number to think about. The more and more I do, I appreciate it. But there will be midweek content coming out. It's not just Hawthorn stuff on the channel, guys, so check all of that out. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you throughout the week. Goodbye. Go the Hawks.